So here's the main reason I think the contamination got in. It's because even though I have air getting cleaned up in the basement, fresh air being pumped in, and it's actually, even when the house air conditioning unit was running, it was forcing enough pressure that there was air actually coming out of the basement. But now the trouble is that I think that the air coming out was just rolling it around, and then all the air in the house, which I keep a clean house, but the trouble is, because I'm creating such a constant vacuum, that really the air in the house is the same air quality that it is outside. And unfortunately, I have a large garden out back, I have compost piles out back, woods and everything. Just all breeding grounds for lots and lots of mold. And I have I think I showed you this before, the filter system in my hallway to clean the air up and circulate it around. And I run some fans with pretty much 20 by 20 filters, furnace filters behind it in my living room. And that, generally cleans the air, but it's just not good enough, especially in mid-August when everything outside is really rotting at its peak. So to solve that problem, I've built my own little custom door here. You see it has 2 furnace filters. Behind those is some weather stripping. And this is just a piece of sanded plywood. You can get a thicker piece. I kind of got a flimsy. You can see here I had to put some boards on the back of it to give it some structural strength. But I have some 24-inch bungees, some screws just to hold the furnace filters in place, like so. I have weather stripping on the inside of the doorway here to make a seal, and thick, kind of like air conditioning window kit foam around the top and the side where there's much more of a gap. You see I still have all these screws poking out of here. I got to take a Dremel tool and saw the ends off, so I don't want to get jacked like I just did. But pretty much every little opening airspace I got closed off. And on the inside of it, I'm going to have some eye hooks and bungees, so I can, when I'm down in the basement, I can pull the door tight and it'll stay sealed up. But when I'm not, I have a couple latches on the outside. As you see here, I can really hold it tight. Kind of like a door sweep made of, came with the same air conditioning kits, just like a couple sheets of the foam filter material went in, rolled up, and stapled to the door. And that'll just keep from anything getting from underneath the doorway. But now you see it's completely sealed up, and there's no way for air to get to the basement without passing through these filters. Now these are only rated mold quality filters, and I think that'll probably be sufficient, but I might switch to the bacterial rating ones. So I'm going to use this little tool I just kind of figured out. I'm going to bleach the basement, and I'll give another update on how things go. I'm going to get this back on track, and I think this is a great lesson for me and a great lesson for all you, because we're all learning about this together. And mushroom farming is always a really growing science, and there's lots of mistakes to be made. But you know what? We're smart, we're focused, we'll get through it. So after a couple weeks of making some more new logs down here after I've thrown everything out and bleach bombed everything, and I also increased the ventilation behind this tarp. I'll show you here. Let's see if you can see it back there on top of the water heater. I put a T-piece of 3-inch pipe. This way I can run the fan that's sucking the air out of this area up the furnace flue. I can run that fan on full power, which I only had it on 1/4 of power because it was putting out the pilot light on the water heater. But now since I've added this piece right here, a good amount of the air comes out of the hole in the bottom and doesn't apply too much vacuum to the water heater. And it's working out really good. And if it comes in the winter and my furnace starts doing the same problem, if it pulls the pilot light on that, I'll just do the same deal and put a T-piece there. It allows still for the heat and the carbon monoxide to get out freely without any problems. But since I've done that, it's also increased the amount of vacuum down here, which has made me realize that my problem might have never been high heat or anything. It might have just been general contamination, because now you see that I've taken the sink, or this old wash basin that was here originally with this place, that was sitting up on concrete blocks. I've taken it out and put it behind the tarp as well. But if you remember before, I had a video talking about this hole back here where a pipe's been cut. That's where the wash basin was, and most likely where the piping went from the drain to it. You can see another piece of pipe that was there as well. I capped that off because I definitely smell sewer gas from it when the exhaust fan was running on high, because it was creating a vacuum and pulling it out from the sewer, which, very bad. But this drain I always thought was fine because it never filled in air, because you did the test where you lick your finger, stick it down there, and see if you can feel the cool air passing between. So I never thought that was a problem. And this drain back here is definitely more modern. You can see actually the water level is higher in it, which means most likely that it does have a P-trap in it. But I don't think this drain back here has a P-trap in it. I think this house is so old. It was built in around 1890 something. The basement's probably newer than that, but still probably predates 1950s. So this drain right here is a big problem. And I thought maybe I'll just plug it up with the same style of fashion with some styrofoam. I have this weight on top of it to hold it down. But I'm going to have to wash this area out. And so I decided, well, I'm just going to cement cap it off, because I'm never going to use it. No one in this house is ever going to use it again, because this basement already has one drain, and the water doesn't even run to that drain. So I'm going to cement that off, just putting another piece of styrofoam down there, and then just packing with cement and smoothing it off flat. I'm going to cap this off with cement as well. And you notice that now that I have this wash basin out of here, I got a lot more space. And I noticed too, you can see a little bit of staining here, where I had the concrete blocks on the floor. I realized that they weren't sitting, flush against the floor, and everything I was washing back here was actually getting up underneath of it. And when I pulled them back, it was just like compost underneath of it. So, yeah, that might have done it too. But, you learn by your mistakes. So, if you have an old place like I do, you want to make sure you check your drains. And I wouldn't even trust them really, because as soon as you put more vacuum to it in the basement, that's when you'll really notice the difference. So make sure you have a good vacuum up, and then if you do find a problem and you got to use just you only have one drain and you have to use it, then you're going to have to do some fashion where you either have maybe a 3-inch wide rubber plug that you can stopper down there and block it off, or use another piece of styrofoam with weight on top and something similar like that, and then only open it when you're pouring water down into it, which still actually might be a problem, because when you're pouring the water down, it might burp up gas coming back around in some fashion. So you might want to, if you can find a modern place to do this, that really helps a lot, and you don't have to go through all the headaches that I've had with this place. But it's working. It's going to work, I know it. So I'm going to cement all this up and get it looking good. Now you also might wonder too, why am I having this problem in the summertime and not in the winter time when I have all the success, in my videos in the winter? Well, there could be the issue of the compost piles I have outside and the garden I have outside, taking the air in, but I've closed all that off now. So I'm thinking it could just very well be that since it's warmer down in the basement and the ground is cold, obviously down where that pipe is going, that the temperature exchange swirls the air in and out like that. But in the wintertime, since it's colder, you don't get as much swirling of the air, so there's probably not as much junk that gets exchanged out. So I think probably what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and just throw all those logs I have out in the compost pile, because I've already thrown one out that got moldy, and that's how I figured that there's still some other problems down here. So it's a couple more weeks of work lost, but it's good. You got to do what you got to do to make things work, and I don't want any kind of chance of those spoiling again while I have this place reset again, and then the spoiling just makes the problem keep going further and further. So you want to nip it in the bud and start clean every time if you can. So I'm back to making logs again. You can see that I have this drain completely cemented up with just some fast setting concrete mix. I actually tried using some leftover mix that I had that I put up all over the walls here, but it was bad. It was too old. I actually had to dig it out and start over again, so I learned my lesson about that. Can't use old concrete. But anyhow, you can see now that I don't even have this old wash basin here. The pipe that was here, I cut off. I left enough lip that I can put a rubber band and a plastic bag around to seal it off. If it had been cut down to the ground like this one was, I would have had to just put a cement cap on it. But that works just fine. And really, this is kind of nice because now I have a little bit of extra area that I could probably put about 2 or 3 more shelves over here and then do most of my work over on this area right here. So now that I have things going again, I'm going to hopefully have success this time. Now that I have the drain plugged up, I have this drain. As you can see, there's it's the same actually kind of old style drain, and I'm pretty positive it has a good trap in it, but I reached my hands underneath, and at the top of the pipe there's a hole going to some other system. You can see here there's another pipe right here. So I'm not too sure about what's underneath there, so I'm going to go ahead and just keep that drain cover on with some plastic underneath to act as a gasket. That way nothing goes in or out, and hopefully I can avert any problems from that. Also too, while I have this fan off, as stuff is cooling down here, I put some plastic underneath inside the intake. That way there's no air coming back through it. And it's just, some chance of the bad air getting in there, but I want to be sure. You also got to remember too, to take that out before I turn the fan on, otherwise it's going to suck in and damage my fan. So, I think all of this will give me the success I want. And again, it's going to be another couple of weeks before I am really positive of what I'm doing is right, but I can't really see any other problems down here. I mean, I got everything separated off. There's no chance of any junk hiding like I had over here underneath the blocks of the wash basin. And so it's really, the most ideal, ideal of a situation that I could make. Also, too, I'm going to start using, instead of 1.5 16-ounce cups worth of plaster of Paris with these, I'm gonna double it to a total of 3 cups. And maybe only 3 for the bash that's toward the bottom of the press barrel because it's a little bit wetter. And then only 2 cups worth, 2 16-ounce cups worth of the plaster of Paris for the stuff in these bins, which came off the top and is a little bit drier. So we'll have an update here and see where things are going.